In the early 1900s, a man named Franz Kafka sat in a dimly lit insurance office in Prague. He wasn't a philosopher in an ivory tower. He was a bureaucrat. He spent his days processing the claims of men crushed by industrial machines, men whose bodies were broken by the system and then discarded like rusted gears. At night, under the flicker of a gas lamp, he wrote the most terrifying prophecy of the modern age: the Metamorphosis. Everyone knows the plot. Gregor Samsa wakes up as a giant insect, but everyone misses the real horror. When Gregor sees his new monstrous body, he doesn't scream. He doesn't ask, "Why me?" or "Is there a God?" He looks at the clock. He panics because he's late for the 5 a.m. train. Kafka's warning is clear. A life can become so narrow that even a total catastrophe is measured only by its effect on your productivity. Today, we are all Gregor Samsa. We are living in a world that rewards usefulness and punishes humanity. We are trading our faces for masks and our souls for functions. This is the story of how you stop being a tool of the boss and how you start to reappear. The Worker's Accident, Kafka's biography of pain. To understand why your life feels empty, you must understand the man who diagnosed the emptiness. Franz Kafka was a lawyer. He was precise, analytical, and deeply ill. He worked for the Workers' Accident Insurance Institute. His job was to look at a human being, a father, a son, a craftsman, and determine exactly how much money his missing arm or crushed lung was worth to the state. He saw humanity reduced to a ledger. He saw that in the eyes of the bureaucracy, you are not a name, you are a capacity. Kafka wrote, "I am nothing but literature." He said this because the office Kafka was a ghost. The man who sat at the desk from 8 to 4 was a function. The man who wrote at 2 a.m. was a person. He lived in a state of permanent internal war. The 2026 parallel. We have reached Kafka's nightmare. In the gig economy, in the corporate ladder, in the social media marketplace, we are told to personal brand ourselves. But a brand is not a person. A brand is a product. When you turn your personality into a product, you are doing to yourself what the Prague insurance companies did to their workers. You are putting a price tag on your soul. The first lesson, the trap of productivity. Kafka describes Gregor as a tool of the boss, without brains or backbone, and proud of it. Gregor isn't a victim of a curse. He is a victim of his own diligence. He was the golden employee. He never missed a day. He never complained. He took the insults of the manager with a smile because he had a mortgage to pay and a family to support. But look at what happens the moment he cannot perform. The manager doesn't show concern. He shows up at Gregor's house to threaten him. The family doesn't show pity. They show resentment. The deeper tragedy. Gregor's identity had become so fused with his job that even when he became a monster, his brain remained a servant. He spent his last hours of human consciousness calculating train schedules. The Renaissance psychology insight. If you build your self-respect on your productivity, you are building a house on a fault line. True stability is having an identity that survives the loss of your job. Ask yourself, if your income, your status, and your role vanished tomorrow, who would be left? If the answer is no one, then you have already disappeared. The second lesson, the objectification of the self. I am a cage in search of a bird. Kafka understood that modern systems don't want whole people. They want interchangeable parts. A whole person is difficult to manage. A whole person has moods, strange hobbies, political opinions, and a need for rest. But a function is predictable. Gregor Samsa had no friends. He had no love life. He had a picture of a woman in furs on his wall, a scrap of paper representing a desire he couldn't even name. He had allowed his work to consume his inner bird until the cage was all that remained. The over-adaptation epidemic. Today, we call this optimization. We optimize our sleep to work better. We optimize our food to perform better. We optimize our leisure to be more efficient. Kafka warns us, when efficiency becomes your highest value, your humanity becomes a bug in the system. To reappear, you must protect parts of your life that have zero economic purpose. You need a useless self. A version of you that produces nothing, earns nothing, and serves no one but your own curiosity. The third lesson, the loveless contract. The most heartbreaking part of the Metamorphosis is not Gregor's death. It is his family's relief. Before he changed, Gregor was the center of the home. He was the provider. But Kafka reveals a brutal truth. Love that depends on utility is not love. It is a contract. Gregor's family didn't love him. They loved his salary. The moment he stopped being a source of income, he became a burden. His sister, whom he loved most, was the first to say, "We must get rid of it." The people-pleaser's grave. Many of us are Gregors. We are the reliable one, the one who never says no. We think we are building a reservoir of goodwill, but we are actually training people to view us as a utility. Dependence breeds entitlement, not gratitude. Kafka's unorthodox lesson: boundaries create shape. If you never refuse, you have no edges. If you have no edges, you are invisible. The only way to be seen is to occasionally be useless to those around you. The fourth lesson, the mask of performance. Identity in the 21st century has become a permanent performance. We adapt our self to the office, the algorithm, and the social circle until there is no core left. Gregor lost his voice physically, but he had lost it psychologically years before. He never dared to ask what he wanted. He lived as a reflection of his family's expectations. The paradox of approval. The more you adapt to be loved, the less you are loved for who you are. You are being loved for the mask, and the deeper the mask grows, the more the real you suffocates. Kafka suggests that authenticity is not self-expression. It is self-loyalty. It is the refusal to betray the inner voice for the sake of a quiet life. The fifth lesson, the inner citadel. In the final act, Gregor is confined to a dusty, dark room. He is rejected by the world. But in that darkness, he finds something he never had as a salesman: interiority. He listens to music and realizes it is the nourishment he had been starving for. He crawls on the walls and feels a strange, primal freedom. He is no longer a salesman. He is a being. The strategy of the inner life. The world can take your job, your money, and your status, but it cannot take your inner life without your consent. In an age of endless noise, privacy is power. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the fortification of the self. Kafka's final lesson is that the only way to survive a dehumanizing system is to build a world within, a place of study, reflection, and silence that the boss can never enter. The act of resistance. The true horror of Kafka's story is that the world didn't end when Gregor died. His family went for a walk. They were happy. The system moved on. This is your wake-up call. The office will post your job opening before your obituary is even printed. Your usefulness is a temporary state. Your humanity is eternal. 2026 is asking you to be honest. Are you a person or are you a function? Are you living a life that feels true or are you just managing a metamorphosis? The first act of resistance is simple. Refuse to disappear. Look at your life today. Find the one part where you are only a function. Find the one role where you have traded your face for a mask. And in that space, do something entirely, beautifully, and uselessly human. Because as Kafka showed us, the only thing more terrifying than waking up as an insect is waking up and realizing you were never really there at all. The Renaissance Psychology Blueprint. Identity diversification. Never have only one source of self. Be a student, a creator, a friend, and a worker. If one fails, the others hold you up. The 1 hour rule. Give Kafka's 2 a.m. energy to yourself. Spend 1 hour a day on a pursuit that cannot be monetized. The no practice. Once a week, decline an opportunity that serves your usefulness but drains your spirit. The world is waiting for you.